the LA members to know as a reminder that next week we have a few events scheduled with our business partners. There are 2 virtual events on Tuesday and Thursday, a murder mystery event, of which honestly is actually going to be quite a bit of fun. Some folks are going to be actors. We have professional actors that are going to be, participating as well. And the other virtual event is really just like a professional game show, and it's quite a bit of fun. And on Wednesday of next week is the Top Golf event, and I would encourage all of our members to go to any and all of those events that you are able to, not just to connect and network with our members, but also to meet with our business partners. And I'm a broken record saying this, but without them, we would not be a chapter. And cannot thank our business partners enough, and Jocelyn and Devin, for doing this. I think it's actually a phenomenal idea. And I guess as a quick introduction about this, is we spend a lot of time in legal operations talking about any number of things about how to improve the firm, and what things can be done to improve our workflow within the firm, and we don't necessarily talk about ourselves and how to improve ourselves and market ourselves better, not just to the firm, but just really to the community broadly. And so thought it was a wonderful idea to invite the experts to teach us on some tricks of the trade as to how to leverage some of the things in social media, particularly within LinkedIn, as to how we could do things to better market ourselves. But with that being said, I will turn it over to Devin and Jocelyn and to continue the presentation.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Gio. Thanks, Janelle. We really appreciate you hosting us. We're building partners, and we've been VP of the Capital chapter for about a year now, and it's been really fun. And Dev and I are going to be in town next week for Top Golf. I also look forward to murdering many of you next week. That's going to be really fun. So thanks to Gio and Janelle for putting all of that on. We're very excited about it. But we're here to talk about LinkedIn. So real quick about us, we're Building Partners. We do marketing strategy for law firms exclusively. Our clients range from the AmLaw 100 to some of the premier law firm boutiques around the country. And we bring a process-driven approach to law firm marketing. A lot of lawyers like their random acts of marketing, and we squash that, and we put process-driven approaches to raising law firm and attorneys' profiles. And we're able to do that because our senior team, they all grew up in large law firms. I was at Foley and Baker McKenzie. Devin was at Quarles and Parker Poe. You can see we've got global and regional firms all across the board from our senior team. But so let's get into LinkedIn. Devin and I do a lot of LinkedIn training, and we get asked a lot of the same questions. Maybe these questions are bubbling around in your head right now. People will say to us, so I'm not looking for a job. Why do I need a LinkedIn profile? And how can I get the most out of LinkedIn? And how can I do it without spending a ton of time? The other question we get a lot is, why does LinkedIn email me so much? So we're going to address all of those questions along the way. But let's stop and take a look at the bigger picture about LinkedIn. So the reality is people are looking at your LinkedIn profile, whether or not you're looking for your next big opportunity. LinkedIn has a lot of authority in Google, which means if you Google yourself, it's likely going to show up in one of the top handful of results. And that's great because you can control everything that's on your LinkedIn profile. This is a great place where you can have your entire internet brand live right there. And especially, page one of Google, there might be things that maybe you don't want to be associated with. You're not delighted that they're on page one, but LinkedIn, you can control the narrative. The other place on the web that is the authority on you is if you're lucky enough to be at a firm where they have administrative bios. That's another place where you control the narrative. This is where you create the brand that is you online, and it's very important to have some care and nurturing of that brand. So in terms of how to use LinkedIn, it's really important to think about what your individual goals are, because you could definitely doom scroll and stay on there all day. But if you are thoughtful about what you're trying to accomplish, if there are particular goals that you want to achieve, maybe you're looking for your next opportunity, maybe you want to raise your profile within a certain community, all of those things are great to think through, and that will help define how much time and where you focus your efforts on LinkedIn. And, you can spend an important thing to think about is that this is where professionals are. There was a study that came out recently that said 70% of the C-suite and hiring managers are on LinkedIn. They're not on TikTok, they might be on Instagram, but that's not where they spend their professional time. So it's important to have a good brand for yourself there. And just like any entity that you start to engage in, you have to remember that there's a little bit of give and take, that it's going to take a while to get to start positioning yourself as a thought leader. Maybe, when you first joined ALA, you didn't initially have a million friends, and you weren't initially like viewed in as a thought leader in that space. But as you put some care and feeding into that, you started to reap the benefits of ALA. LinkedIn is similar. You need to go and spend some time there, because LinkedIn is not made of magic beans, right? You need to invest in it a little bit, just as you would in any other new networking endeavor, in order to get the most of it. So let's talk about how to build the right network. So you want to think about where you want to be known. Where is your next opportunity going to come from? And building the right network could stem from anywhere. It could be from your colleagues right now. It could be from ALA. It could be from your community. Maybe you're involved in a board, or maybe it's your neighbor or the parents of your kids' friends. There are folks out there who can help you, and it's important to get connected with them. So along those lines are thinking about your weak ties. And let me talk for a second about what that means. Your weak ties are the people who are outside of your immediate social circle. These are the people that your immediate social circles who you talk to like every day or every week. Your weak ties are people who are outside of that. Pre-COVID, these were the people that we saw once a year, like at a wedding or a conference or at a reunion. They are great because they know people that you don't. The great part about ALA is that you know a lot of people, but the not great part is that you know a lot of the same people. So mining your weak ties gives you access to a whole other galaxy of people who could help you, who might have opportunities for you, who could help advance your career. So making sure that you think about those people and approach them strategically is really important. At the beginning of COVID, I was interviewed for an article in a publication called WorkHuman on the power of weak ties and how to identify them and nurture them and reach out to them. So if you're interested in that, it turned out to be a pretty good piece. Let me know and I can send that your way. Lots of helpful tips in there. But so once you identify these folks who are going to be able to help you, you need to start connecting with them regularly. And okay, so that's a lot. So let's talk through how we're going to do this. So here's what you need to know about LinkedIn. LinkedIn has been around for like 20 some odd years. So if you've been amassing connections over this time, there's a lot of people in there that you don't stay in touch with anymore. Remember that conference back in Vegas in 2005 where you met so many people and you were going to be friends? No, you do not remember this at all. The good news is though, LinkedIn does remember that, and it has kept all of this information for you. So what you need to do is go export your LinkedIn connections into Excel. And I do not mean you go look at your connections and scroll. No, that is a terrible plan and a terrible use of your time. But you can download all of your connections from LinkedIn into Excel, and you will be shocked at where all these people ended up. And so if you have an idea of the kinds of firms that you're looking to go to, maybe you've always dreamed of being at a Kirkland or a Cravath, you can go find out who is connected to these. Because once you take a deep dive into your connections, it's important to look at who knows whom. Maybe you can get a warm introduction from someone that you know that you didn't even know is this person that you're trying to reach. Because those warm introductions go so far in getting that new position. It breaks through the clutter of the online form that you filled out. A lot of us do the hiring. That when you get a referral from someone that you trust, it goes a long way in getting someone to be moved through that pipeline. So do that for yourself. And the other thing that you should know about LinkedIn is it has really good search features. So if you have identified a firm or a region, or maybe you want, please don't leave the legal industry, but maybe you want to, right? You identified an industry that you want to go to, you can do a search within LinkedIn for some specific filters, and it will pull up everybody that you know who meets those criteria. So your first and your second and your third degree connections. So it gives you this gold mine of a path of who you can start to reach out to. And, when you're doing the search function, so Devin and I do a lot of these trainings, and people are really scared to hit search, right? So I just want to make it clear that you're not going to break LinkedIn, that the people who come up in your search filters will not get an alarm that you are searching for them. It is okay to go and use LinkedIn to maximize your search for your next opportunity. And so once you find these people, maybe you're searching by a particular job title, maybe you know that your next role you'd be reporting into the COO or the executive director. Once you figure out who these people are that you want to stay in contact with, you need to check in with them regularly. And that's hard. So here's this tip in the blue circle. What you want to do is make a calendar appointment with yourself to check in with these people. So you know that you need to reach out to Sam and Joe and Mary, make a calendar appointment for November 15th and December 15th. So then it'll jog your memory to go in and say, hey, like what have they been doing on LinkedIn? Go engage with some of their content or their firm's content. That will go a long way to keeping you top of mind when the next opportunity that they have pops up. One other thing that we get asked a lot is, what should I do about all these requests that I get to connect on LinkedIn? And the double-edged sword of LinkedIn is that the more active you become, the more people who are going to try to connect with you, the more random the people are who are going to try to connect with you. So I can tell you that I'm pretty discerning about people that I will connect with. Just because I was in some networking meeting and there was somebody else who was in that same meeting, that for me is not enough of a reason to connect. So when I get these inbound requests of people wanting to connect, I go check out their profile and I put it through a couple of filters. I think to myself, are they in the same industry that I'm in or that I'm trying to be in? Do they know a lot of the people that I know? Are these good people that I think highly of? Only then will I choose to connect with someone, because you are the company that you keep, and people can go on LinkedIn and see who you're connected to. So you want to make sure that you're connected to the best people. Now, if you are friends with the Prince of Nigeria, he has some money that he wants to wire you. If you're like tight with him, then fine, connect with him. But otherwise, I would put ignore for those. Okay. So we've got your network. We know who you want to connect with. Now we need to connect with them in a meaningful way. Okay, so what does that mean? So a great baby step to take with this is to start to interact with your law firm posts. So your firm is likely posting content to the firm page. Your attorneys are posting content. Go start to interact with that. ALA posts a ton of great content. That's another place to go. That's a good baby step to start getting involved and start to raise your profile and your engagement level on LinkedIn. So in any post, there's three things that you can do with it. You can like it, you can comment on it, and you can share it. So let's break down what those three things are. So like involves the least amount of time, right? Same as Facebook, you like it. Yes, LinkedIn now has like clapping and heart, right? It's just a like, right? That's all the things are. So liking takes the least amount of time, but it's, the least engaging of all the things that you can do. Now, commenting is when there's a post and then there's a bunch of comments that come down below that. That's a good place to say, congratulations, or hey, this was a really helpful article, or I saw this other related article. That's a great way to start engaging with the poster. The best thing that you can do, though, is share. And so share means you take that content and it then appears in your LinkedIn feed. And Devin's going to pop us over to LinkedIn in just a minute, so she'll show you what that looks like. But you take that content and it shows up in your feed. So all of your connections will see that. But the important thing when you share is that you have to add your own perspective or the reason why you're sharing this content. And we have all seen people who just share and don't provide any perspective. And that is the email equivalent of sending someone an email that says FYI or see below. And we all hate when we get them, and we all do it, right? We do it to other people, but we know it's not quite right. You should probably go in and say, here's what you need to care about this. Here's why this is important to you. Do that same thing with those shares. Add a sentence or two about why it's important for someone to care about this and scroll down. That is what's going to start positioning you as a thought leader. And then you don't have unlimited time. So let's talk about where you should spend your time, what kind of posts. I recommend focusing your attention on posts that highlight people, the people and faces, the kind of posts that talk about awards and new jobs and congratulations. Those are the ones that get the most traction on LinkedIn. So if you're going to bet your money on a post, do it with ones with faces, because that's where you're going to have the most meaningful activity. All right, Devin, can you talk to us a little bit more about some other ways that we can engage with content on LinkedIn?
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Jocelyn. So part of, making that activity meaningful is not only sharing things on LinkedIn, but sharing them amongst your colleagues. And one really easy way that you can add value to the marketing efforts of your firm is to simply circulate the firm's LinkedIn posts around to the attorneys and staff. So we just pulled a quick sample from the ALA page. So you might not be able to read this text, but this is a simple email that you can just say, here was this post, go like, share, comment, and engage with it. And that is going to make you look like a rock star at your firm. Okay, so now we know why LinkedIn is important. Let's talk about 4 easy ways to up your LinkedIn game. The first way is to add a hero image or a header to your profile. And before we talk about the hero image, I'm not going to say that you need a profile photo, because I know that you already have one, and I know that it is of you and what you look like now. And it's just of you, not of you and your dog, although I'm sure your dog is very cute. But if you don't have a professional headshot, that's okay. This doesn't need to be, like an expensive endeavor for you. Get your partner or your kids or something and put yourself in front of a neutral background, or go outside and try playing with that portrait mode on your iPhone. And you should be able to get a good LinkedIn photo from that.
I should mention your background, your header image doesn't have to match your outfit. That was just a happy coincidence. That is not a requirement.
We will have a little coordination there. But going back to that hero image, this here on the left, this is kind of a blah gray that LinkedIn just auto generates, but it's prime real estate to really showcase your personal brand, whether that is from your firm, if you want to support that, or even if it's just a city skyline of Washington, D.C., or wherever you're located. It's a nice visual to add to your profile to show off who you are. Okay, tip 2 is about the headline information. This headline is the first place where the search engine bugs start to crawl your profile. So we can see over here, Arnold doesn't really tell his connections what he does or the geographic areas that he serves. The only thing we really know about him is that he loves bow ties. But really, this headline should showcase at minimum your job title and where you currently work. But you can also spice it up and think, a strategic problem solver, or that, if you have a role within ALA, definitely highlight that as well. But this is really going to help increase your ranking in search results. All right, sad gray box syndrome. So that is another auto-generated graphic here on the left from LinkedIn. But it's really important in your experience section to make sure that you are tagged to the companies and organizations where you've worked or went to school. If you're not tagged, that means you're missing out on those alumni connections. So when you go to add this, it's really, just starting to type in the company name, and LinkedIn is going to suggest some places with predictive text. Just make sure you're clicking on the right one. That's going to create not only a nice visual for your profile, but also is going to help. Sometimes we all get a little bit of a goldfish brain. We're like, where did I work again back in 97 or whatever it might be? But this creates a really nice digital resume for you. All right, the all important about section. This section is crucial to increasing your ranking in search results. And an easy place to start thinking about it is, I like to think of this formula of who you are. I'm an HR generalist at XYZ law firm. What you do, I help improve onboarding processes and improving the employee experience. and who you do it for. I recruit top talent for an AmLaw 100 firm. And that's a good place to start, and then kind of adding in your experience from there. I also always recommend to put your about section in first person. That makes your profile a little bit more approachable and actually makes it seem like you are running your profile. All right, and so you don't have to, oh, sorry, Gio, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was gonna ask a question about the how we market ourselves in terms of what recruiters look for and when they run queries and searches. Are those searches, I guess maybe the question is what's indexed on LinkedIn and what's being searched? Is it the about section? Is it the skills? I mean, should we list 50, 100 different skills that we have? Or is it more appropriate to market that in this biography?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So the short answer is it kind of pulls from all of those sections. But really the places that I would focus your efforts for your profile are in that headline, because that's really the first place where the search engine is going to pick out keywords. And then it goes down to the about section. Your skills, I would typically recommend listing at least 5 and then really highlighting, there's 3 that you can pin. And those and we can look at this on LinkedIn when we go to LinkedIn, but those top 3 skills are where those search engines are hitting more than, your 20th skill is usually not being picked up. But those top 3 pinned skills, that the about section and the headline, that's going to be really key. And it's also important kind of looking, at your experience, talking about the sad gray box. Not only is it important that you're tagged to credible organizations, but also that your title is accurate. Because if a recruiter is searching, for instance, and I'm just going to use this HR generalist example again, but making sure that your experience aligns with that search is also going to help you climb the ranks in terms of search results. Does that help answer your question? Okay, great. Okay, and to make those changes, and just looking at your profile, you don't have to write this slide down. This will be included in the deck that we circulate. But just as you're on your profile, keep an eye out for that little blue pencil icon. That's where you're going to be able to make these changes. Also, just a little tip here in the circle to update your LinkedIn URL. You can personalize that to include with your contact information if you're at a conference or giving a presentation, anything like that. Okay, so we have the basics. Let's head over to LinkedIn. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing so we can all say hi to each other again. And go ahead and go to LinkedIn. Can everyone see my screen okay? Great.
Yes.
Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is look at that meaningful activity that Jocelyn talked about earlier. And I'm on the ALA Capital Chapter page, and I'm just going to show you how to share a post. So we have this first one right here about Topgolf. Again, this is that easy share button here. Like Jocelyn mentioned, it's really important to add why this is, why this is important to you or your followers. And that doesn't have to be a complicated thing. It can be as easy as, I can't wait to connect with the chapter. It's always good to tag people or organizations if you can. That's going to really help promote these shares. So we're going to go ahead. Everything's good. And I'm going to go ahead and share that. And then let's say, for example, you're writing something and you have a typo. You can go to your post and easily click edit and go ahead and revise that if you need to. So also thinking about activity, we're going to go to the home page here and we're going to look and see, okay, so this is a perfect example. So I do not follow Digital Inc., but my connection, Michelle, shared their post. So you can see this is popping up in my news feed. So engaging with posts, liking, commenting, and sharing is going to help promote your name or your firm's name or ALA's name out into the news feeds of other people. Okay, so we've mentioned skills. So while we're here, I will just, oh, nope. I will just go ahead and go to my profile and show you where the skills live. If you go down here, so you can see I've got these skills pinned here. And these are the top skills that are being crawled by those searches. Okay, so we're going to go now to the back end of LinkedIn, and I get there by going to my my profile picture up here. And we're going to not talk about all of the settings, but if you have questions about them, please feel free to reach out. The first one we're going to talk about is your, that question of, can people see if I view their profile? So right now, for me, in profile viewing options, that answer is yes. People can see when I view their profile. I like to keep this on because I think it adds, there's opportunities for connections that way. Like, oh, I saw you viewed my profile. How are things going? But let's say, you've been asked to do a little snooping, maybe on for someone's, for an attorney's deposition or something like that, then maybe anonymous might be the better option for that. But this, you can definitely toggle back and forth depending on what's going on at the time. Also wanting to talk about how to get that Excel sheet of your contacts. So if you go over here to data privacy and then get a copy of your data and click connections here, you can easily request an Excel sheet of all of your connections instead of, again, like scrolling through each one. And then finally, if you hate LinkedIn because of all of the emails that you get, if you go here to communications and click email, you can adjust those settings. Okay, so we're going to go back to our regularly scheduled programming.
Hey, Devin, if I could jump in for a second. So, I think it's been really interesting how LinkedIn patterns have changed since the pandemic. You used to be able to run like clockwork when the most people were on LinkedIn, and that was on the morning and the afternoon commute. But that has changed a lot. So much so that we used to tell people never to post on a Friday because people were not spending time on LinkedIn on Fridays. But we've started to see a lot more engagement on Fridays in LinkedIn than we ever have. And I think that's because people are sort of, like Gio was saying, Thursday's the new Monday, right? Like by Friday, you're spent. And I think more people are looking at LinkedIn because it's still quasi-professional, but it's like a legitimate way to spend some of your time if your brain is fried. But it's been very interesting to see some of those shifts.
Definitely, yeah, that's a really good point. Thank you. Okay, so looking at some of your next steps, the unofficial homework of this presentation, if you will. The first, we encourage you to define your LinkedIn goals. Think about some of the people you might want to connect with. Take a look at your weak ties that Jocelyn talked about earlier, and that's going to help your direction as far as where you want to go on LinkedIn. And then definitely take some time to review your own profile and use these tips to update it. Or if you don't have one, definitely it's time to get on LinkedIn. I promise that it'll be worth it. And then if you have any questions about your own individual profile, Jocelyn and I are happy to walk you through and any questions you might have on a one-on-one session. This doesn't have to be a scary process. We are here to help. So we packed a lot in today, but we do just want to mention that we have a webinar series where we pack even more marketing tips into just 15 minutes. Our webinar on October 27th is going to talk about meaningful business development coaching. So we hope you can join us. All right. And are there any questions that we can answer for you guys, or anything that you were hoping that we covered that has really been a burning question for you?
How do you feel about personal volunteer, personal things versus business only?
So I include volunteer experience on my profile. I think that it helps create a little bit more of a well-rounded individual. People know that we have personal lives. We're not all about our jobs all the time. So I think that helps. It's also, an interesting thought as far as, as you're sharing things and engaging with activity, if you one day maybe want to make a career move into a different spot or really be seen as a thought leader in a certain area, sharing, articles or updates about that specific, if you really want to get into like aerospace engineering. And so it's like, okay, I'm going to share things from Boeing, or I volunteer at this space camp, or whatever it might be. That's going to really help set you up as a thought leader in a different field.
Cool.
And I'd love for you to share photos of that. If there's anything that you do that's related to, I don't know, packing food or cats or whatever, like there's probably something good in there that you could share. And that's a great kind of photo to share on LinkedIn. That's where LinkedIn and Facebook sort of blur a little bit, but it is something that, you're passionate about, that's career related, and that's completely legitimate for LinkedIn.
But so I would never think of sharing something, because if it's not career related, then would you still share it?
So the reason that people are saying that LinkedIn and Facebook are starting to have lines blurred is because people are posting things like that. But I think when they get posted and they have some sort of inspirational message, it's okay. Devin, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I definitely think that is an okay, definitely use discretion. I would advise against getting like overly political if that's the case. But if this is, if you're really proud of a child for graduating school and you're comfortable sharing their photo, or if you just ran the Chicago, or, we just had our marathon here in Chicago. And so if you just ran a marathon, that's a great thing to post on LinkedIn. And kind of like Jocelyn talked about in that slide about making activity meaningful, the posts with celebrating people really get the most traffic. So things like that are uplifting, I think that's perfectly okay to share.
Okay, cool. Interesting.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
You mentioned that some of us may have been on LinkedIn for a while. Guilty as charged. I have hundreds of contacts, but a lot of them are from a previous work life. Like I used to be a practicing attorney, and so they're like all of my arbitration contacts and whatever. Like, sure, they may know people who like I can network with, but they're really not relevant to my current life. Do you recommend like unloading people secretly, or like what do you like? What do you think? Like, how do you lighten the load in a nice way?
Well, I will say that they won't know if you unconnect with them unless they go to your profile. So if that takes away some of that anxiety, they will not see like, oh, Lori unfriended me. They won't get a notification. I would say you never know who might be a valuable connection in the future. So that's one thing to consider. But if it's really like, if you see someone that's just like bogging down your newsfeed with stuff that's not relevant to you, then go ahead and, this is maybe a like kind of a mean thing that I do, but I hope you won't think less of me. So LinkedIn will give you birthday notifications for people. And if I see like, I haven't talked to this person since, like, for whatever reason, like someone from high school messaged or connected with me, and they're, doing something completely different outside of the legal industry, I will unconnect with them on their birthday, because they're like, it's like right there. So it's kind of like, I know that's so bad, but, so it's just kind of like a regular check-in as far as, so it's not like one big purge of your contacts, but just every once in a while you're seeing like, okay, this person is not helpful to my professional career. It's time to cut ties on LinkedIn. That's so bad. I'm so sorry, guys. Please don't think less of me. Jocelyn, did you have any thoughts on?
Yeah, I think that your point is right. I think it's okay to have a lot of connections. Where it's annoying is if you're going to scroll through all of them, but we just told you to never do that. So that saves some time. There are people who post too much. Some of the patterns that we've seen shift is that there are definitely over posters these days. And just like on Facebook, I don't want them to be part of the things that I see every day. So that's totally fine. Any other questions we can answer?
I have one more if no one else has anything.
Yeah.
I manage my firm's LinkedIn webpage, and I feel like that sort of monopolizes my time. Not that it's fabulous and I spend hours on it every day. No, but I do that. And I'm also really worried about, because it's all managed from the same page, I'm really worried about confounding what's mine and what's the firm's, because I think it's really easy. I think one time I did it, like I liked something that I had just posted. I can't do that. So I tend not to do anything then, because I just don't want to ever do that again. So, I mean, I think it looked like my firm liked it itself, and it just, no. So do you have any suggestions for people like me who kind of have to wear a few different hats? Like, has it gotten better? Like, I haven't tried it in a couple of years because, again, I just don't want to mess it up. But if you have any suggestions for how to like wear both hats, that would be great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
LinkedIn makes it really hard. Devin, do you want to share like maybe Building's page, and then you can show, there's a
Definitely.
teeny tiny button at the top right, Lori, that says like share as a member or share as an individual. And it's so hard to find. And so you just have to make sure that you toggle through that. So right now Devin's on the Building page and she's viewing it as the administrator. See over there, it says super admin view. And if she liked a post right now, it would definitely be Building liking itself. But which don't do that. Right? But so then she clicks view as a member, and then she sees it as an individual. So before you go like something, you need, especially if you are just on LinkedIn once, you're going to post something to the firm and then you're going to go check out what's on your feed. You want to make sure that you see that. And you saw that blue bar pop up at the top. It might be gone now, that said like, now you are viewing this. Yeah. So now you're viewing this page as a member and not as an admin. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I guess I just have to make sure I'm viewing it as a member before I hit the like button.
If you want to, yes, as an
I want
individual.
all 746 of my contacts to see that my firm just published a newsletter, but I don't want the firm to be like, hey, we published a newsletter.
So then you could share it. I mean, I think sharing is the best thing to do, right? Have something meaningful, but do it as a member. Otherwise, we see this all the time, when attorneys still have access to the pages that we manage, attorneys will go in and share it, and they're just sharing it back to the firm page. And then we have to go in and secretly delete it and then talk to them again about how they need to look for that bar.
Another just kind of safe way to do this is when you are sharing something, your photo will pop up. So if you see, your firm's photo, your firm's photo up here, then that means you need to go to this drop down and adjust it to your own personal account. That's a good question, though.
Awesome. Thank you.
I have a question about, how do I say this? Is it worth spending the money to subscribe for like the elevated service, or is that really just appropriate for recruiters?
If you are doing a lot of searching on LinkedIn will inform you that you have done too many searches and now you need to pay. And that's the only time that you need to pay. Unless you're doing it, like if you have Sales Navigator and you need to use it to help, if you're running your firm's like lead generation, or if you're a recruiter. Otherwise, you should just use LinkedIn until LinkedIn gets mad at you and forces you to pay. And then either tell someone else on your team to do it, or, do it for a month.
That's the equivalent of like the Facebook jail. Right. Like you ran too many searches, you can't use it anymore.
Yes.
Right.
What else can we answer? Those are good questions.
Question, not necessarily LinkedIn related, but just sort of, how do you counsel, say, someone on your team who is oversharing or politicizing things? And other people in the firm can see it. And, there is sort of that separation of personal and business, but sometimes it's like, what is going on in your team, right? So are there gentle ways to kind of like, what I want to do is yell at them, but that's probably not best. But are there gentle ways to counsel people to stay away from the politics?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that's proactive. Like it should be, firms, everybody wanted a social media policy for a while. Now, not everybody has that, but there should be something in your handbook that says that, you need to conduct yourself professionally on platforms. Now, does this person have access to your firm's LinkedIn? Okay, good. Because I would maybe consider revoking if that was the case. If it's just personal stuff, you probably have to talk about the handbook. That stinks.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
We've also seen a couple of our law firm, and I'm thinking one in particular, who encouraged one attorney who was outspoken on Twitter just to put in his Twitter bio that I think it was like something like tweets are my own and are not affiliated with my employer or something like that. So, that's might be, again, like Jocelyn said, definitely consult the handbook, but sometimes that's in the social media policy, and that's how they were able to kind of like encourage him to do that.
I tried to get HR to help, but it was sort of, hey, freedom of speech, kind of, like, we can't really tell them they can't. And I'm like, oh, yes, come on, like,
Yeah.
it's hateful. I'm sorry, it's just awful. So,
Oh, yeah. That I think would violate HR if you're getting into hate speech, right?
that I felt it was like getting into hate speech. Like
Jeez.
I'm very bad online. I'm not on Facebook. I've never tweeted a thing in my entire life. Like I have no idea. I have a LinkedIn profile. I joined this because I'm like, yeah, mine's totally antiquated. I do need to go back in and do something with it because I'm probably the grayed out box, right? Like I'm the blob. I would be your textbook example. So I joined this thinking, I've been thinking about this a long time. Maybe this will help me. So thank you.
Good.
Barbara, have you encouraged this person to keep exercising those First Amendment rights on a different platform?
I have, so it's all relatively new coming to me. So it's somebody that I really, really like. And I'm just like shocked by what people are telling me. Like, I'm like, no, not him. Like, I'm just like, I'm like still sort of like picking myself up off the floor, trying to figure out like, now what do I do? So, but yeah, I think I have to sort of, say like, remember, if you friended something, like people can see this and you need to consider the audience and the firm and what this means to your credibility, honestly, in the firm. Because that's where it's really hurting me, right? It's a manager level person. So I'm like, oh.
Well, and especially if it's being brought to your attention by other people. So yeah, I also will point out your activity on LinkedIn, like similar to other social media accounts, even if you just like something, that will pop up in your activity feed. So like people will see what you like, what you're commenting on, even if you're not sharing it to the world. That's still all very transparent on LinkedIn. So just to, I think the reminder to be mindful of what you're engaging with is always a good idea.
Thank you all.
Anything else we can answer? Other burning questions? Okay, great. Well, as Devin mentioned, we're happy to do any one-on-ones that you need. Hoping to see some of you at Top Golf next week. We're excited to come into town.
Please don't make fun of my bad golf swing next week.
Right. Janelle and Gio, did you have any parting thoughts?
Gio may have had to drop off, but yeah, we definitely wanted to encourage everyone to attend all of the events next week. And I will definitely be at Top Golf, so I will see you there. I'm looking forward to seeing humans again, right? Like real people. Yeah, thank you everybody for coming. And this was great. I was on LinkedIn and I just changed the background behind my picture. So that was very exciting. This is awesome.
Great job.
Very good.
Yeah, awesome. So thank you so much.
Thanks,
You
ladies.
bet. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.